Send in the clowns. There's got to be clowns. Don't bother, they're here. Today's episode is about humor. Ha, ha. But first, a little housekeeping note. Despite the advice from some of my loyal viewers, this may just be the last time you see this studio. Hopefully by the time I'm recording again, these marks will be gone. I'm sorry, folks, but, OSHA just says it's not up to code. But on to today's subject. Now, let me just say, I'm sure anybody that's been watching, it's not going to be a big surprise to you that I don't really prepare my remarks too much. A lot of times things will be running through my head and I'll start putting them together in my head and I'll get some good ideas and I don't write them down. Unfortunately, I'll do my video and afterwards I'll think, you forgot the kick-ass part. But one of the things I am trying to do with these is I want them to be organic. And I'm not even sure that's the right word, but let's go with it because most of my viewers aren't smart enough to know if I'm wrong anyway. But, it's kind of like I used to like to write stories. And I really like stream of consciousness. And actually, even any of you that are on my Facebook, even some of my posts that are only about a paragraph long or so, if you look at them close, a lot of the stuff I say is coming to me as I write it. So that's pretty much what I do here. And actually, when I was in school, you know how, like in high school, you'd get an assignment and it's due in 4 weeks. I need a 250-word essay talking about whatever it be, an important event in your life or something. Now, the way my mind works is not the way any English teacher tells you to do things. They want you to sit down and outline your story and then write it down and rewrite it and la 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 la. Me, I do all that in my head. Like, I'll get that assignment, and for 4 weeks it'll just be rolling around back here somewhere, and I'll be thinking, oh, you know what, I'll write it about that time that the talking turtle grabbed my wallet and ran away, or whatever the important event was. That one's not that important, because, there's nothing funnier than a turtle that tries to run away with your wallet. But the only thing funnier would be a snail. So, end of the story. I got my wallet back. Had a little tooth mark in it, but whatever. Anyway, like I say, for those 4 weeks that the teacher thought was a generous amount for you to write and rewrite and write and write and write, it would all just be in my head. And I then sit down, if I was really being conscientious the night before, but more than likely maybe on the bus on the way to school, or in the math class before English class, I'd just sit down and poof, out would come 250 words. So I'm saying that's pretty much what I do here. A lot of times it'll be running through my head, and then I come here and I start doing it. But like I say, unfortunately, a lot of times I miss things, or as you might have guessed, I sometimes run off on a tangent and waste the first 5.5 minutes of the video talking about other things. Because what we're supposed to be talking about is humor. And basically because I've had a lot of trouble with humor. Well, I haven't had trouble with it. Other people have had trouble with my humor because, and I maintain this, most people are stupid and they don't realize that I'm being humorous. Here's the thing. One of the things about me is I'll often say things that I think are obviously a joke, you know? In my head, I think nobody could possibly take this seriously. And then somebody gets offended, or they are incensed that whatever I said, I could possibly do such a thing. An example, I've talked about this to people recently before, and I use the term people loosely, is I will say something ridiculous, and the person takes it serious, and my first thought is always, how can you be that stupid? But right after that, I'm offended because I think, wait a minute, what could you possibly think of me if you think I would actually kill my neighbor's dog and stuff it for dinner? You know, something like that. But anyway, so I've run, sorry, let me get my shot glass here and clear my throat a little bit. Anyway, that's the sort of thing I've run into a lot in my life. The other thing about my humor is I've always claimed this is a genetic trait in the Muckster family, sarcasm. And now people who know me on Facebook, most of you will be with me on this because I tend to gather friends who, you know, have the same type of humor. And most of my Facebook people do. But anyway, once again, there's a lot of people don't understand sarcasm. And I say it's a genetic trait because I've noticed, like, we all seem to be born with it. Like, the generation after mine, all the nieces and nephews, it's like from a young age they understood sarcasm, and I never really gave much thought to it because it seemed natural to me until my sister was telling me how her son would have trouble in school because he'd be sarcastic and the other kids had no idea. And I don't know, he'd say something like, oh boy, I hope the teacher gives us a test today, or something like that, you know, being sarcastic. And the other kids are like, why would you want to give a test? And one addendum to this, Tobias, Toby, as you've heard me call him, he, odd this way, he's the first one in the family that doesn't seem to have that gene. He's a very literal person, which is okay, because that's actually something I like too. A lot of times, I think when I'm not being funny, is I'll say something and I will mean it literally, but people have this habit of you saying something and they then interpret your words in their mind. Like you might say to someone, "Oh, I like that blouse on you." And they hear, "Is he making fun of my blouse? What's wrong with my blouse? Why did he say that?" And all I meant was, nice blouse. Anyway, let's get back to humor. This is something I also touched on a little bit in the video that started this whole thing was, uh, what was it? Kids these days. I mentioned a little bit in there about how, like when I was in high school and that, everybody was an insult comic. And, it's one of the things, kids these days don't understand when you're using an insult but as a joke. We all knew we were, having fun with each other when we would insult them. But yeah, and as is my wont, I've lost my train of thought. Well, I'll tell you something else too, along the whole lines of humor, is I'm a big fan of the absurdist humor. Monty Python, the knights galloping across the field with no horses, but there's a guy following behind them, clacking coconut shells together to make the sound of the horses. And then, of course, they get into that whole argument about where'd you get the coconuts? We're in England. And, maybe a sparrow brought it, and the whole African or European, that kind of thing. Another guy that I like most of his movies. Sometimes he gets a little too juvenile for me. I'm sorry, folks. I know for a lot of you it's your favorite movie. Didn't like Spaceballs. Just a little too stupid for me. But most of Mel Brooks stuff I like. And I think a lot of people, as I've said, there's a lot of stupid people. They don't catch all of his humor. I can remember when he first did The Producers. And, the guy, the famous song in there, "Springtime for Hitler and Germany." He got a lot of backlash about that. People thought that this Jewish guy from Brooklyn or whatever was celebrating Nazis. But he was actually using humor to bring them down, He was like showing how ridiculous they were. And I always liked, like Blazing Saddles. Now, when I bring up Blazing Saddles, a lot of people write off. And I know some of you, as soon as I said it, you thought of it, didn't you? You love that fart scene. That, scatological humor isn't really my thing, but it didn't bother me. But my favorite scene in there, and I'm sorry, but I have to use these words. First of all, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alerts, but what the hell's wrong with you? Why haven't you seen it? There's the black sheriff comes to town, and all the townspeople are like, "Oh my God." And, there's that great scene where the sheriff pulls the gun on himself. But I like at the end when the bad guys are going to come and destroy the town. And the townspeople and that are all gathering together. They're getting together to fight them off. And there's the black guys and the Chinese guys from the railroad. The railroad workers are there. And, of course, the black sheriff and the brilliant Gene Wilder. But the townspeople, the one guy who was like the mayor or whatever, they're talking about, at first whether everybody should be included. And this is, and I may not quote it exactly, but this is a line that I love. He says, okay, okay, we'll take the niggers and the chinks, but no Irish. And it's the kind of line that I think a lot of people laugh at just because of those words being used and stuff. It's kind of like how some people love comedians that all they do is swear. Although I think those guys have kind of they've gone away mostly because they just, there are just so many of them that tried to get cheap laughs that now I think they don't work anymore. But anyway, but I just loved like the brilliance of it, how, the satire of no Irish. And then somebody says something and he's like, oh, all right, let's have everybody. But yeah, it's I don't know, that's sort of my outline of humor and where I differ from people, from many people, and why people don't always understand me. Like I said, a lot of it, I think it's so obvious I'm joking and they don't get it. And in all humility, I think it's just because, they're not as smart as I am. You know who I mean. I know you're out there. I believe that's about all I have to say about that for now. And about an hour from now, I'll be either sitting here watching YouTube, or I might be laying in bed and I'll go, damn it, you forgot the most important part. I hate to go too much longer. I gotta tell you one other thing about humor, though. I'll just give something about my parents. And this is also a lot about the, genetic humor thing. But my father was somebody that people liked. He was jovial, joked around a lot. And he told jokes and he laughed. But what a lot of people didn't realize was just how funny my mother was. Because she had a sneaky kind of humor. And a lot of times you didn't realize she was at it. And I'm not going to say any more because I just realized the best example of that is the Thanksgiving story. And I'm going to make myself a note that says Thanksgiving story. And when Thanksgiving comes around, I'll tell that story. Because it'll take a few minutes and this has already gone way too long. It's going to take this thing 3 days to upload. But hey, if you're sticking with me, honestly, this is sincere. I appreciate the few of you that are liking my stuff. I don't care that I'm never going to be one of those guys on YouTube with the thousands of followers. If a few people are appreciating me and coming back, thank you. I love it. And you know what's coming. If you've been watching, peace out.